Think about this for a second. Imagine trying to navigate our world today with all its superhighways and complex digital networks using a road map that was printed back in 1979. You'd see the old main roads, sure, but you'd miss everything that actually makes the modern world run. Well, that's pretty much the exact spot we're in right now when it comes to research ethics. We're using an old, outdated map for a brand new high-speed territory.
And this quote from the American Journal of Bioethics, man, it just nails it. For decades, the Belmont Report has been our ethical North Star, our guide. But a lot of smart people are starting to say that in the age of AI, that star might be leading us astray. It makes you wonder, right? Is our most important guide for doing the right thing now dangerously out of date?
So to really get why this is such a huge deal, you have to understand what the Belmont Report actually is. It's not just some dusty old document. It is the absolute bedrock of ethical research in the United States. It's the gold standard, and it was born out of a really dark time.
See, the Belmont Report didn't just show up out of nowhere. It was a direct response to some truly horrific ethical failures, most famously the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where treatment was withheld from African-American men for decades just so researchers could watch them suffer. It was a national disgrace. So Congress stepped in, a commission was formed, and in 1979, we got the Belmont Report. It was basically a promise, never again.
And it's all built on these three really powerful principles. First up, respect for persons. This means you're in charge of your own body, and you have to give what's called informed consent to be in a study. Second, beneficence, which is a fancy way of saying do no harm. The research has to do more good than bad. And third, justice. The risks and the rewards of research need to be spread out fairly, not just dumped on the most vulnerable people. For more than 40 years, these three pillars have held up the whole structure. And then AI happened. And artificial intelligence isn't just another tool in the toolbox, it is a whole new way of doing science. One paper described AI as having an enormous appetite for data, and honestly, that appetite changes the entire ethical game. And here's the fundamental shift. Traditional research, it usually involves a person-to-person interaction, a doctor and a patient, a scientist and a volunteer. AI research, totally different. It just hoovers up these gigantic data sets, finding patterns in millions of data points, often without any direct human contact at all. The sheer scale of it creates ethical problems the writers of the Belmont Report could never, ever have possibly imagined. Okay, so let's get down to it. Where exactly does this 1979 framework start to buckle under the weight of 21st century tech? Well, the cracks start showing up almost immediately, and they go right down to the foundations. And this leads to a really scary paradox, something called regulatory inversion. Now think about this. The most powerful AI models, the ones that are trained on these massive data sets and have the power to impact millions of people, they often get the least amount of ethical review. How is that possible? Well, it's because they often use so-called de-identified data, which can let them skip a full, rigorous review. It's completely backward. The biggest risks are getting the least oversight.
So let's look at that first pillar, respect for persons. The whole thing depends on informed consent, which means researchers have to tell you about the foreseeable risks. But are the risks of AI really foreseeable? I mean, when your data is used to train a model that's constantly learning and changing, the harm that might come down the line, like an algorithm denying you a loan 5 years from now, is basically impossible to predict. People have no clue their data is being used for this stuff, which makes the whole idea of consent totally meaningless.
All right, now for pillar number 2, beneficence, the do no harm rule. The biggest harm in the world of AI isn't usually a physical one. It's something called algorithmic bias. This is when an AI system consistently spits out unfair results because it was trained on biased data that just reflects the prejudices we already have in our society.
So, how does this actually happen? Well, bias isn't magic. It creeps into the system through a process. It can get in when the data is first collected, or when it's being cleaned up, or even when humans are labeling it. Every single step is a chance for bias to get baked in. And what you end up with is an AI tool that doesn't just make random mistakes, it makes them in a way that systematically hurts certain groups of people. And that brings us to the third pillar, justice. This comparison right here makes the problem so clear. The Belmont Report was built to stop direct harm from happening to one person in one study. But AI harm? It's a different beast entirely. It's usually not about one individual, it's about an entire group of people. It's systemic, it's unpredictable, and often happens years after the research part is done.
And here it is. This is maybe the single most shocking part of this whole situation. The very rules that are built on the BELMONT report. They legally forbid the ethical gatekeepers, the review boards or IRBs, from even considering the long-range societal effects of research. Let that sink in. The number one type of harm that AI is likely to cause is the one thing they are explicitly told to ignore. Our ethical compass is being forced to point in the wrong direction.
So the old map is failing us. It's leading us somewhere we don't want to go. The question we have to ask is, how do we draw a new one? How do we possibly create an ethical guide for a technology that changes its shape literally every single day?
Well, the answer isn't to just throw the old map in the trash. It's about updating it for this completely new world. It's time to start forging what you could call a BELMONT 2.0, a new ethical blueprint that's actually designed for the challenges of the algorithmic age. And look, this is not a job for a handful of people writing new rules in some conference room. The sheer complexity of AI means we need a totally new way of thinking about this, one that's built from the ground up on a foundation of collaboration. We need everybody at the table. And that is precisely the idea behind this incredible new national initiative. It's called BELMONT 2.0 AI, and it's basically a consortium, a team-up of ethicists, technologists, researchers, and institutions all working together to build the next generation of research ethics. It's about creating that bridge from 1979 to today. And their goals are ambitious, which is exactly what we need right now. This isn't just about tweaking a few rules. We're talking about creating brand new tools for review boards, sparking a real conversation between all these different fields, and, this is the big one, shifting our entire focus from just protecting one person in a trial to actually governing these huge, complex systems. It's all about making sure that as AI gets smarter, it doesn't leave our human values in the dust. So ultimately, we're at a crossroads. The ethical future of AI isn't going to be written by a few coders in Silicon Valley or a few regulators in DC. As initiatives like BELMONT 2.0 AI are showing us, it has to be a group project. It must be co-authored by all of us, ethicists, patients, technologists, and the public. That's the new imperative. The only question left is, are we ready to contribute?